Hey, Gabrielle.
Okay, good evening, everybody. You're very welcome. As Gabrielle said, my name is Alison McKeown, and I am going to run through this program with you, the Dementia Training Program. And I suppose we were having brief conversations there with everyone earlier, but just in terms of what this course is and going through the program itself, and I'm going to share my screen. So if everybody can sort of let me know if they haven't seen the screen, but I'm sure everyone can at this stage. And I'm going to go
Mm-hmm.
through this program. Perfect. Perfect.
Yep, let's go.
So you're very welcome, everybody, this evening. As I said, my name is Alison McKeown. I'm the program manager for Chevron College, as Gabrielle said, and we had a college that provides this particular QQI Level 5 Special Purpose Award in dementia care and support. This is a brand new award in QQI platform. It is the only HSC approved award in Ireland, and we are delighted to be running this and really delighted for the support that Kilkenny and Carlow ETB are showing by funding and running this programme alongside the partners in training with ICE, and Angela here is in attendance this evening. Um, this program was, I suppose, really the thoughts came in around 2018. My background is a healthcare tutor, and when I was out delivering the major healthcare award, which lots of people are familiar with here, which is a QQI Level 5 award in healthcare. So modules would include care of the older person's care skills and so on. We really recognised that there wasn't a QQI specific award for dementia care, and we all know the importance of supporting somebody living with dementia, and that certainly is growing in terms of the clients that we see out in the community in residential settings, within dementia cafes, daycare centres, all of the rest of it. So the HSE partnered up with ourselves and DCU to come up with this new award, and it has been in pilot mode. And this has now been completed in terms of the pilot mode and has been delivered nationally for a number of HSE home care services, number of ETBs, the Alzheimer's Society and Family Carers Ireland. And now we are ready and are started this year to roll this out nationwide with all home care workers with the HSE and ETBs. And as I said, Kilkenny Carlow, we're delighted that they are on board with this. So, as I said, this is a special purpose award certificate, and this is important because, as I said, this sits alongside any major award. It is not a module towards your healthcare major award. It is a special purpose award, specifically upskilling those caring for people living with dementia. So, in the ETB, we have Bernie Eccles and Alina Comerford, which some may have been in contact with regards alongside Gabrielle for the Kilkenny Carlow contract managers and administrators. The course manager overall for ICE is Angela, who's on this call. We are the training providers, so we will provide. I will be your program manager on this course, and I'll be providing and manage all of the tutors on this course. And but more importantly, will be there for you as the students throughout your support, your support in this course. What you will find is, and I've always said this, you can see even from this evening with myself, Gabrielle, and Angela, there is a huge team behind all students on these courses. So there's lots and lots of support for you there. And the tutor in particular for this course will be Jill Jackson. So, as I said, there is QQI Level 5 Special Purpose Certificate. The duration is 25 weeks, and you might think, oh my God, this is going to be so long. This is very purposely devised in this manner, and it'll break down in what we call blended learning. And that is a breakdown of 12 online sessions, which is basically one day that we split into two evening sessions. And those evening sessions take place between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. on the designated evening sessions. And then there is three on-site visits, 2 days of classroom, and then the very last day of your course will be on site, which will be your assessment skills demonstration day. And I'll come back to that later when I go through the timetable in a little bit more detail. And there's 16 mentoring sessions. And again, I'll come back to that in a little bit more detail and what they are. And they're basically, you'll have a mentor on this course alongside your tutor who delivers the content, but we will be supplying what we know as a Moodle. or a learning management system, other people might know, where we will help you register on that. You will have access to all of the content, all of the PowerPoint slides, learner handbooks, and full schedule details um, of all of the information on the course prior to you starting on this course. The course start date is the 11th of May and it ends on the 2nd of November. And as I said, the evening sessions online are 6 to 9. The on-site days are full days on site and they will be held in Kilkenny FET. And we will come back to the timetable if that's okay, because I do feel it warrants a little bit more detail and explaining exactly what that means. The idea of the 25 weeks is this is to give you plenty of time while you're working. We appreciate people, this is adult education. Everybody has families, they have full-time roles. And the idea if this nicely sits along your work life. And this is to help your role as opposed to make things difficult for you. There is going to be no assessments along the way, no requirements of trying to submit work along the way. It is called reflective learning. And you'll see that word come up time and time again because the idea is you'll have your classroom sessions. Then, in between your classroom sessions, you will have a mentoring call with your mentor, be it on the phone or it could be online, whichever is your preference. Or indeed, you could have then a few weeks goes by and then you have your classroom. And the idea is that as you're learning, you check in with your mentor in the in between weeks to see what you're learning, you're applying in real life work. So that is the idea around that. And again, I'll come back to that in a little bit more detail when I show you an example of the timetable. So, as I said, where did this come from? It was very much a case of to the aim of the program is to help healthcare support assistants to develop their existing skills, to become more self-aware and reflective, and to be fully equipped to care for people living with dementia in a more humane, empathetic, and dignity, so that they can live longer in their own homes and residential communities. As I said, we're delivering this across a range of areas. The majority of the HSE staff is all home care workers within the community. We have run this for family carers, as I said, Family Carers Ireland. We have also run this for Alzheimer's Society. And again, people living, working with them in nursing homes, daycare centres, and residential settings, as well as people's own homes. So there's a real whole variety of audience for this particular course. So this is the course content, and a very brief overview is there's 6 units, and at the end of the 6 units, you have a reflection overview. So each unit is outlined here, and the first unit here is how we understand dementia and why it matters. And I suppose the biggest difference with this course is if anybody has done care of the older person for QQI level 5, you'll have a brief assignment where you might be given, a written assignment to do or an essay to do on somebody with cognitive impairment. This goes into something much more detailed. This is focusing on, yes, the medical, but more so the psychosocial side of things. And Kitwood is very much person-centered care is the theme that runs through this in terms of psychology. And it's very much based on person-centered care. And the unit one will look at the medical terms of dementia, but more importantly, why does that matter? Because as we all know, an holistic care approach is not just the medical and the task orientated, which is what we're looking, and probably most people are used to delivering in terms of providing care. But it's really looking at the holistic approach in terms of, as I said, the psychology around caring for somebody with dementia, and more importantly, your own psychology too. And this is where this course really differs. It fundamentally challenges everything that you're currently probably doing now, and there's a reason for that. When DCU and the HSC and the National Dementia Office, who are responsible for the National Dementia Strategy, this is linked in with the Sláintecare government um, work that they're currently doing. So this is very much linked in to all carers within the HSC have to have this course. So this is currently a recommendation outside the HSC. So you will be ahead of the game. This will become mandatory. As we all know, HICWA are coming on board. That bill has gone through for legislation for domiciliary care, so carers in the community. And this is what the HSE wants. It wants to change. It wants to look at the culture. So this is why the units are built around this. Self-awareness, care, and boundaries. This is so important for as a carer, and anyone who has experience as a carer is really the understanding of allowing those boundaries because often you're a lone worker, often you're working in the home on a one-to-one, you're dealing with the client and you're also dealing with the client's family in many occasions. It could be many stakeholders, such as, a public health nurse, an occupational therapist, a GP calling into the home. So it's understanding your role, but more important, your own self-awareness in terms of boundaries. Unit 3, then we cover understanding emotion and communication. And this is the unit that we bring you on site to deliver because we find that this can get quite emotive because you're talking about experiences that you may have. We do encourage peer-to-peer learning, which means just exchanging in a controlled environment with the tutor, of maybe experiences, what you've done, and really what you could do in terms of communicating with somebody living with dementia. And that's a huge part of what comes up time and time again in terms of the feedback from our students. And that's why we feel this unit is really important to be done in person because, as I said, a lot of the work that we do in this course is group sessions, it's peer-to-peer work. It's not just a tutor standing on top of a class talking out, PowerPoint slides. It's really getting you involved and understanding your current situation, your current experiences, how you can improve that, and bringing that into the classroom. Unit 4 is roles and relationships. And again, that covers a variety. As I said, this is each unit builds on the next. So we're building up again on the boundaries, on roles, who's there. As I said, various stakeholders that came in previously, like GPs, OTs, family members, building on that, and where you fit into that stakeholder relationship. Unit 5, then. This is everyday ethics. This is the first time in QQI that they have done a specific course for dementia, but have brought in ethical dilemmas. And again, it's probably the area that we get most feedback in terms of students, and we welcome that and we want that. We want you to talk, we want you to challenge, we want you to have conversations. And what we have found, again, this is the unit that we bring you back in on day 2 of your classroom on site because we feel this again can be quite emotive in terms of people's experiences. And what I have noticed, and certainly from rolling this out in the last 5 years, is that carers often don't even realize that they are dealing with ethical dilemmas every day with their clients. Am I lying? Should I lie? Should I say that? Is that right? All of those dilemmas are gone through in lots of details, and in terms of what is the right thing to do. Is there such a thing? So again, that's a classroom that we bring in. And then overall, we have Unit 6, which is the well-being approach. And this is very much focusing on you, the carer. And we all know that as a carer, we often don't look after ourselves enough because caring for other people, it takes a lot in terms of not only physical, but also mental stress. So we help guide a lot of the carers in terms of being a well-being approach for yourself, in caring for somebody with cognitive impairment or any type of dementia. And then what we say is at the end, you have a reflection overview. So it's really reviewing all of the units that we have gone through in more detail. You will have a learner handbook, and each handbook is on the Moodle system, but it breaks down each units, and obviously the PowerPoint slides for each unit will be there. And you'll have access to this prior to starting the course. And I will help you on that. You will make sure you can have as much or as little access as you need because you're in charge of that Moodle yourself. But it's really good to have the opportunity to have a read through things and reflect. And what I recommend is that after each unit, you do that and reflect on each unit as you go. And that brings me nicely into assessment and why I say, review after each unit. There's 2 assessments on this program. 40% of your assessment will be a role play, and this is done on the very last day of your course on site. And this will be done in groups, and you will practice this in class. So don't fear. And when I say you submit a written piece, it's basically as a group, you will be given different scenarios. So you will write up what scenario that you are going to do so that the tutor knows when it comes to the practical assessment, what piece you're doing. So that's all that is. We're not asking you to come up with your own scenarios. We will guide you around the scenarios that we provide you. So as a group, there's normally one person who has dementia, one person who's acting as a carer, one person who's acting maybe as a stakeholder, and each of the scenarios will run around those things. So you're working in a group, you're not on your own, and they are recorded on the last day, and that's known as a role play or a skills demonstration. And that will carry 40%. Then the second part of your assessment is a reflective learner record. And as I said at the start, you will see and hear this word reflection, reflective quite a bit. And the idea is this reflective learner record that you will do is a written assignment. And this is submitted, and you have up to 2 weeks after your skills demonstration date. So, again, this is all done towards the end of your course. So, there's no stress in you having to get anything submitted during the course while you're working and learning. But what we do, and I'm sure Jill, the tutor, will explain, I would work a little bit, roughly a paragraph on each unit, and then when you come to the end of your course, then you have the bones of your reflective journal and record. And the idea is that you are going to reflect on each of the units, look at, and the very last piece on the what we say is the reflective paragraph. You look at where you started and then basically where you are now, having done the course and what you've learned. And basically, that's the last reflective paragraph. And then, as I said, we have a huge team here. You have tutor, Jill Jackson, and we have an on-site tutor, Mary O'Connor, is going to be here as well. And they're going to, and Jill, luckily, is going to be your mentor as well on this program. So you have full academic support from them. But more importantly, you have me as your complete student support officer. And then behind me, I have a huge team around the academic side. So if there's any issues around get access in Moodle, I've logged myself out, password changes, I can't get on, don't know how to do it, please help, all of that stuff, please come to me. And what I say to anybody is, once you get started and get into it, you'll find that everything falls into place. And as I said, the learner handbook is there and all of the assignments are uploaded to our Moodle. Now, in Chevron College, we have what's known as the UDL principles, which is Universal Design of Learning. What does that mean for you? It means that we're here to support you in any way that you can possibly submit your assignment. So if somebody is struggling in terms of typing, we can actually submit a transcript. So you can actually talk in and record your learner record and submit it that way. So we can guide you through that principle if you want, or you can certainly submit it in terms of getting it typed up and getting that submitted through the Moodle. So we'll support you through that. So we're here to support you through that, as opposed to putting anything in front of you to block you, helping you submit any sort of work. So, what equipment do you need? I mentioned the word blended earlier, and what does that mean? You're going to need a laptop or an access to a PC at home so that you can view, like you are this evening, the evening online courses. Good internet connection where you can, a working camera, and we do ask that we would have um, most, people where they are attending the course on the online sessions to have the camera on so that you're engaging with each other, but more important for the tutor as well. And full attendance is advisable. Now, overall QQI, it's 80% attendance is the minimum requirement to pass any QQI course, but we would ask of full attendance. Communication is key here. And I always say to people, if you're struggling, if you feel there's anything or you've missed a session, please contact me. Communication is key. If I know that you're sick or you're running late or you're struggling in any way, I can help. If I don't know that and you fall off the radar, I can't help with that. So as I said, we're here to support, not in any other way, but to support. So just, you'll get to know me. You'll have my phone number, so you can text, email, call, or contact me via the Moodle. So there's lots and lots of different ways to communicate with me. If you're sick, if you're running late, can't make it for any reasons. But as I said, I'll go through that in more detail when I talk to you individually. So what are the next steps in terms of registration? So KCETB Training Services will email everybody with a link to a Microsoft initial assessment form. There is no fees for this course, and as it's a level 5 course and it's under skills to advance. So luckily this course is being fully funded by Kilkenny Carlow, which is fantastic. My name is Alison McKeown, and as you know, as I said, I says here I interview all applicants prior to the course. The most important thing is between now and the course start date, I will phone you or I'll send you an email with all of the registration details for Moodle and with the Zoom links for the class. But more importantly, I will link in with you on a one-to-one. We'll organise a time for me to call you. And I know that in a group setting, sometimes people may not want to ask a question or queries. But again, I'll have a chat with you in terms of entry requirements on the course. So, I'll have a chat with you about if you've done QQI previously or anything equivalent. And if not, we look at what's called an RPL, and I will do that with you, which is a recognition of prior learning. So if somebody doesn't have the QQI entry modules within healthcare, childcare, S&A, any areas of those, um, we can then look at your experience. You need to be working with somebody or going to or have done living with dementia to do this course because, as I said, your reflective journal is based on somebody that you're caring for or have cared for or will, because you need that experience for your reflective journal. So I will say any questions, but what I will like to do is bring up a copy of the timetable. So can you just nod there, Angela, if you can see that timetable so that I can know that everybody can?
No, it's still on the PowerPoint presentation.
Okay. Yeah. Can everyone see this?
Not yet.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So I think it's really important to show you a copy of the timetable because when you hear 25 weeks, I think everybody just thinks, not a hope am I committing to something that long. And I understand. But as I said, there's a reason for that. It's because it's to make your lives easier. This is supposed to work in parallel to your working life. So the
Sorry, can you
idea is,
zoom it up a little bit?
can I bring, yes, of course I can.
Yeah,
Yeah, I haven't got to that,
please.
but I
I
will.
didn't mean to interrupt. I just want to, yeah, thank you if you can. If you
You're
can. If you
abs
can't, it's okay.
No, I can. I
That's
can
grand.
indeed.
Is that
Now,
better?
is that better?
Yeah, yeah, that's
Perfect.
grand. Yeah.
So this, as you see, is going to be your 6 to 9, and you're going to have your week 1, which is starting next Monday, the 11th of May. And I've highlighted your online courses. And you'll see how we've split the one full day into 2 evenings, and you'll see we're covering Unit 1. And as I've gone through that in the demonstration, how we understand dementia and why it matters. And the peer-to-peer sessions is basically you swapping stories and sharing your experiences. And that's with guidance of the tutor, by the way. So, generally at the start of this course, we ask for what we call a student contract. In other words, that everything that we talk about in class is in confidence. But more importantly, obviously, if there's any safeguarding issues, then, the tutor will certainly pass them on and bring them back to me. But in terms of the learning element, that's what we mean by peer-to-peer sessions. And as I said, this is all reflective. So really, realistically, you're only going to have 8 weeks of evening classes. And that's basically all you have over the 25 weeks because 16 of those 25 weeks are made up just of phone calls with your mentor. So that initially brings the course, reducing it in terms of the classroom delivery. So I think really that's what you need to focus on in terms of commitment. And I'm not trying to say that the mentorship is not that commitment because as you can see in the timetable, we have timed that in. And we have dates where the mentor, in this case, is still going to be Jill, your tutor. And Jill will organise a time in that day that suits you. And she's very flexible. If that's in the evening, she'll do it in the evening. If that's in between a call, if you're in between clients and you're in the car, en route to a client, or you finished work and you're saying, listen, I can't do it, at 4 o'clock, I'm doing the dinner, collecting kids from school, all the rest of it. But she will organise those times with you. She can also, if we have a large group, because we can take up to 20 people on this course, she will do group sessions. So if there's a few people that a time suits, she can do a group session as well. So the mentoring is really important and it's a check-in. It's guidance. It's keeping you on track. Listen, on day one, we did this and something came up in work. And you can have a chat and have a conversation about how you might apply something that you've learned and share with each other. That's all that mentoring is. Because when we were looking at this with QQI to validate this, bearing in mind this is the only HSE QQI level 5 dementia course there is in Ireland. They really wanted this. They wanted that change of culture is what they wanted. They wanted much more engagement in with regards to the students, and as I said, it's not just healthcare assistants who are on this. There's supervisors and managers because this is everybody that's working in the industry. So that mentorship is really important. And then what you'll find is a few weeks will go by before you're back into a virtual class. So your classes online aren't every week, they're every couple of weeks. And in between, you have your phone call with your mentorship. And then, as I said, I've highlighted here on green, you'll have your understanding, emotion, and communications. And as I said, Unit 3 and Unit 5, we have brought you in for the 2 days on site. And then in between, you can just see here dates. We haven't put in times because we are absolutely flexible on that, and your tutor will do the times. But they have to be done on that date for obvious reasons because we have booked those tutors on those days. So they will be doing them on those dates, but times are flexible. And then you go through here. And we have some time off because obviously we understand in August. So there's a week off in here, and you'll have some time for your next mentorship. And then obviously week of the 31st here, it's in green, so that knows you're on site. And then you're going back to your mentorship. And then a couple of weeks pass, 3 weeks pass, you're back to your live virtual online sessions. So as I said, you've 8 online sessions and then 2 days on site. And then when it comes to the very end on in November, you will have your skills demonstration and you will have a slotted time allocated to your group. And again, this will be worked out with your tutor. So each group will come in, generally about an hour and a half. It's roughly 20 to 30 minutes per student to be assessed. So each group will about be an hour and a half per group. So you'll be coming in allocated time slots throughout the day to be recorded. So I will stop sharing now and happily open the floor for questions.